come every time I procrastinate to record episodes, it's like a pin drop in my studio. No sound, nothing. Ultimate peace. When I want to record an episode, the neighbor upstairs wants to walk around. There's people outside talking. A dog magically appears outside. Never heard this dog before until I want to sit down and record. Now somebody's driving up and down the street on a loud dirt bike. As soon as I want to record. When I want to procrastinate and doom scroll on my phone all night, nothing. But as soon as I record, the sounds come out. Now time for some interactive fun. Sorry for that rambling. Had to get it out. But hey, this is Kirk. I'm back again. And that means this is still Dumb Test Late. We're back with not cake. Last episode was cake. If you're listening to this in order. I'm back with my Insecta story. Here's a quick question for my one listener. How do you feel about retconning or using elements of like old stories of previous stories or already set stories? That's kind of what I want to do. Yeah. So in the last episode, I brought up the idea that I wanted to change the format of the way I envisioned this Insecta story to go. Like starting all these stories out, I had the idea they'd be either like TV shows or movies or series or something like that. But like what I said with going down the rabbit hole of research for these, it led me down the rabbit hole of comic books, and I'm still collecting, which is awesome. But I won't say how many I have right now, but I'm still reading my comic books. I think on the last one I talked about Heart Piercer. I'm still reading that one. I think I'm on the third book of that one. That's really good. That's a good story, but it's told like in reverse. Like I said, that one's just, I like comics where they just drop you in a story. This one, they drop you in a story to give you a character, something happens, but they're telling it in like reverse. I don't know if I would do that for this story. I don't have like the mindset to really pay attention that much. I would need to tell like a linear story, but I do like that as a concept and research for this story. There's another one I'm reading called Butcher Boy, which is really good. It's really not graphic, but it's a horror. It is graphic. It's a comic book. But it's horror based. But the story is really good. That's another one where it jumps in time. I don't know what that would be called. But yeah, that one's really good. Like I said, I wouldn't be jumping in time. I can't keep track of everything like that. I'm new here. I would be telling a linear story, but I want to keep that motion going of making this story into like a way a comic book is told. The main thing being the serialized content, but like smaller content, because even though I don't have art, I want to tell it in that story format. Also, the new thing I came up with this one. I talked about previously. My main villain in the story is a Mesopotamian god named Nergal, who I found through research and all this stuff, just listening to random podcasts, and that led me to so many other things. But I was looking up more stories of Nergal, and I listened to this podcast. I had this idea of the story with Nergal would communicate with my main character Cole through these insects to entice him to, sorry to say this, but to the dark side, or to be a villain, because Nergal needs to control someone on Earth. It's like this communication thing. Previously I talked about the Mothman. The Mothman is kind of this medium character for Cole, kind of leading them, kind of, engaging them in this world and telling them how things happen. Because the Mothman, I think I said this on the previous episode, is built up of these different entities and it is basically reborn when there's going to be something catastrophic. I think that's the Mothman's main mythology, like the Mothman prophecies and all that. I was going to stick with that. The Mothman really doesn't do anything. It's kind of this guide for Cole. That's how I see the Mothman in this story. Sorry. I literally just realized I hit the pause button. I was still talking. Sorry if that's like a weird cut. Like I was saying, the Mothman in this story. And also, I don't know if I talked about it on the show, but the idea I had for kind of the opposite of Nergal, and it was kind of where I started down this path, was Medusa. The legend of Medusa, like the kind of I don't want to say secret, but the one people really don't know about, how Medusa was basically killed and mistreated and abused and all that stuff. She wasn't really this horrible monster that she's made out to be. But I kind of had this conflict because the storylines, Nergal is from Mesopotamia, which is much older than Greek gods, which Medusa comes from. But then randomly doing research, there was this podcast I listened to about older stories, and they talked about like a search for Nergal, and they did this whole episode about this mythology, this myth or this story from Mesopotamia with Nergal and someone called Eshkgal, Ereshkgal. Say it however you want. I'm gonna say Eshkgal. Eshkgal. It was a female goddess in Mesopotamia. She was the god of the underworld. And there's this whole story with Nergal kind of taking over her. I won't get into the story too much because old stories like that have very triggering things that is called romance, but you can use your imagination how that goes. But the kind of the theme of the story is Eshkgal is the god of the underworld. Something happens with Nergal. Nergal comes to the underworld, which you're not supposed to do. And he kind of takes over in some way. But there's like themes in this story. Like I said, I want to take stuff from an older story because this is a story I've never heard before. Because I mean, it's Mesopotamia. When you think of like goddesses and gods, you can think of Greek. That predates that. So, like I said, I'm going to steal from this story. But no. Eshkgal. So I'm thinking Eshkgal is going to take the place of Medusa in my story. So this is going to be the opposite of Nergal. Because in that myth with Eshkgal and Nergal, it's one of those things where Nergal is in the underworld, but he could come up every 6 months. It's one of like those old like myths that gets reused. I think the same thing with Persephone or someone in Greek mythology. But that's how Nergal comes back to Earth because Nergal is one of the god. He's a god of plagues. I think I talked about it in previous episodes. That's how Nergal can come back to the Earth and cause these plagues or be responsible for these plagues. But in my story, he wants to take over again and kind of cause a total human ending plague or something like that and fully take over. And he's trying to entice Cole to do that because Cole has this power that they don't know they have. But the other force enticing Cole will be Eshkgal, who's trapped in the underworld and is under Nergal's power now because they lost their throne to them. So Eshkgal's symbols are through an owl and a lion. I saw that online. So while Nergal has this power to communicate or try to entice Cole through these insects, that's their form of communication between the worlds. I'm going to look at Eshkgal and her form of communication being through this owl that tries to contact Cole or try to entice him to their side. So there's no clear, I say good versus evil. It's kind of both. I mean, Nergal is true. He's the god of plagues and he's trying to take over the world, but Eshkgal isn't that great themselves, but is the opposite of Nergal. So they're both trying to entice Cole and pull Cole in these different directions. And Cole is like a medium stuck in between. And the Mothman is the kind of the guide. They're showing Cole what's actually going on because Cole doesn't have the sight yet. I think I talked about that for Cole's power is they can see reality shifting or changing. That's part of their third eye sight, but it's not, they don't really realize it yet, or it's something they ignored. Because I keep saying this is what I talked about before, that this Cole is a shaman. That's what I keep forgetting to say. And there's this belief that if you're a shaman, but you kind of don't know you are, or you don't want to be one and you trying to take yourself out of that world, that there's a way the spiritual world will contact you to pull you back in or remind you of that. And that's through the insects. So Cole maybe realize they're getting enticed by Nergal, and that's bad energy, and that's trying to take their shaman powers into this bad place, and they trying to get away from it. They try to pull themselves away from it or deny it. And then they see the vision of the owl, the symbol from Eshragul, showing them this other side. And the Mothman kind of has to be in between to translate and guide Cole to their full power or their full potential, because they could have full potential on the dark side. Sorry for saying that, but to become evil, to maybe be tricked by Nurgle into giving up some of their power, or bringing Nurgle back up so they can become from the underworld permanently. But Eshragul is kind of enticing Cole also in selfish reasons, but it's a different alternative. Like they can get power from Eshragul or learn from Eshragul, or give Eshragul their crown back, and they can both team up to defeat Nurgle. I don't know how this story's going to go. I'm still putting it together. But yeah, that's how I see the story going. Like, I wanted to include Medusa, but it's finding this one myth kind of Eshragul replaces Medusa in my mind, because the original myth with Nurgle and Eshragul go back to Mesopotamia. So there's that relation there. Yeah, that's what the background I'm going to keep going for these. So I'm going to look at it as kind of an evil, a lesser evil, and the medium in between. And Cole's stuck in this world trying to figure things out. Cole is like the vision of the audience, seeing this world around them and learning more about it. There's a term for that in story writing. I don't remember. But also there's this scene that I see playing out, because in the Eshragul and Nurgle myth story, that there was this thing that podcast host brought up that was said in the story, that Nurgle is associated with scorching heat of noontime. So I'm thinking there's going to be a scene where like all the insects that are surrounding Cole and kind of communicating with Cole, all of a sudden they disappear. And there's like pure silence. And there's just like no sound. There's no sight. Cole is just, their third eye isn't working. Their regular eyes aren't working. They don't know what's going on. And it's like perfect noontime, scorching heat of noontime. And then that's where Nurgle appears to them and communicates this message. Just like the one time Nurgle can come up from the underworld, and they kind of appear in this godlike form to Cole and basically try to persuade or entice or trick Cole. And then that's where Cole realizes the full communication that's been trying to happen through these insects, because the insects can't just talk to Cole. They like, it's a spiritual world thing, but it's also they communicate to them in different ways. But then that scorching heat of noontime is when Nurgle fully appears to Cole, and Cole realizes that's who's been communicating with them, but they're not 100% sure why or what's the reason or what they actually want them to do. But then later on, the Mothman has to basically be the medium to explain to Cole what's going on. Maybe later on, Cole gets talked to by the symbol of the owl. That's Eshragul that I'm thinking about. But I haven't fully thought about how that would go, because I don't know. An owl. I don't know. There has to be a different symbol, because they said the owl and a lion. I tried to use AI to come up with like a picture of a creature that's a combination of an owl and a lion, which I think there's a mythical creature like that, but it didn't come out right for me. AI couldn't figure out that prompt, but maybe I'll come up with something else. Oh, if you want to check out pictures I create from AI with AI for the ideas of these stories, check out my website, pt6.com, and also Instagram. But yeah, that's where I am with my insect story. Eshragul, which she doesn't have very much imagery. I had to use like AI to get good imagery about her, because she's not well known. And Nurgle, those are going to be my overlying gods that are pulling Cole in this direction. I need to fill out more of who Cole is. The way I'll do this story is you as the reader or the audience will learn more about Cole. Cole will grow as you grow too. That's how I see it happening. Cole is the medium that you see the story. Cole is the eyes you see the story through. And that kind of is similar to their third eye. They're seeing this world and they're seeing the world changing around them, because there's different dimensions. There's a spiritual world and all this stuff. There's a shaman. They can see that. But yeah, that's how I'm going my Insecta story. I'll keep reading comics. I have a full list of comics I need to read. I'm so behind. But yeah, I'm still going. I'm not letting the procrastination get to me all that much. Hopefully there's not too much noise in the background. It's a noisy night for some reason. But thanks for listening. Thanks for hearing me ramble, letting me ramble in your ears. But I hope you're good. Hope you're enjoying yourself. Summer's almost over. But I'll keep going. So since I did the Insecta story, that means the next one up is cake. I gotta figure out where I'm going with that story. But yeah, I'm still Kirk. This is still Dumb Test Late. Hope you're doing something good. Hope you're enjoying things. Catch you on the next one. Bye bye.